Hi guys, Shane here, Oz Flight Simmer. Welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to check out VR in a Microsoft Flight Simulator. Is it all it's cracked up to be? We're going to compare it a little bit against the other flight sims, and can you use it as a real-world aviation tool to practice procedures and all that sort of stuff. So let's jump into the video. Hi guys, welcome to the simulator. We are actually physically in the sim via VR. We're at the holding point of runway 36, which is an iconic holding point for Meigs Field, which is a very famous airport that no longer exists, that we used to take off, used to be the default airport for Microsoft Flight Simulator back in the day. So we're at Meigs Field. It is a third party. I'll leave a link in the description below. But what we're talking about today is a few things. We're going to talk about VR. Why would you spend your hard-earned cash on VR? What's the experience like? All that sort of stuff like that. Can you use VR as a tool, and can it help you in your flying career? And also the history of my experiences with VR, with X-Plane, Prepared, and now Microsoft Flight Simulator. So not necessarily in that order. I'm just going to talk to you as I'm going to do some circuits. We'll probably start off with why VR and the experience. But firstly, what I'll do is I will pop up my settings up on the screen here so you guys can see that. Now I will say this as a disclaimer: what I see from my headset is no way in near what you guys will see on this video. Unfortunately, VR is really hard to record, and the experience I'm having is much better in my headset. And now when I'm recording, because to record and to use VR, it's very taxing on the system. I've got my headset resolution turned down a little bit, so it's not the same as I would be normally flying when I'm flying VR just by myself. So we're in the Cessna 152. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull back on our RPM. We'll release the brakes, and we're going to just look through these. So see, cool thing with VR that I'm very tall, and I can look and see if there's any aircraft on approach, which there's not. And I can basically have my head on a swivel, and I would be looking around as I would be looking around in VR. And that's the experience with VR. Why would you have a purchase and spend your hard-earned cash on VR? And you would do it to get the truest life experience that you could. So within saying that, we're going to make sure the aircraft is trimmed. We're not going to use any flaps because we've got an extremely long runway. Now the elevation at the airport for Meigs is 600. So we're going to remember that as we do a circuit. And the wind is about 5 knots directly down the runway. So we're basically going to keep the nose straight down the line using our rudder pedals. We get 60. Now we're going to pull back and see if she wants to fly. There we go, she wants to fly now. And typically in different aircraft, if you had flaps, once you get 300 above, which would be 900, you would put your flaps up. So we're going to do some right circuit flying. Once we get to 600, we'll make our turn 90 degrees to the right, pretty much where that boat is over there. And the unfortunate thing is the camera movement in VR is a lot smoother for me to see than what it records as well. So we get to 600 there, so we're going to clear out left, center and right. We're looking for any aircraft, which is none around, and I've turned off traffic tags, so if there's anybody flying around we won't see them. And the experience you have in VR is basically, in my opinion, to get the most experience you can to real-world aviation. Now, as we turn to west here, make sure we're 90 degrees to the airport, which we are. We're getting to 600. So once we get to 600, we're going to do that level out. going to clear to our left, center, right, and we're going to make our turn down to our downwind. Now basically what I'm doing here, I'm using this as a tool. Make sure we don't creep above our 1,000-foot marker. I'm using this as a tool as I would be flying in real life and making it the most realistic experience possible. Now in my opinion, if I compare this to my real world flying, we go there's north, so we're parallel to the runway, is that really the only difference is one is I can pause the sim and go and have a coffee and all that whenever I want, so there's no issue there about safety or margin, so you can be relaxed and or as serious as much as you want. But the only really other difference is the movement that you would get in a real world aircraft and the sense of being up in the air. Other than that, this is pretty much the ultimate setup, in my opinion, is why you would use VR. Now I can't, what I'm doing now, looking at the airport, I'm making sure I'm parallel, I'm looking at my instruments, oops, the microphone there, I'm making sure that I'm at the right height, and then when I get to the threshold there, I'm going to pull back, make sure I get in the wide arc there. Now I don't fly a Cessna in real life, I actually fly a different aircraft, so you guys can comment on my performance, but I'm making sure not drop down too much. And then we're going to put our first notch of flaps. There we go, and we're going to drop the nose a little bit and trim just for starting our descent. And now we're going to be making sure that the runway is in our 30 degrees or behind us here, and then we'll make our turn. But what I'm doing now, you couldn't really do that with a hat switch, and this is what it's like flying in real life and looking around. And we're probably, because I'm not used to flying an aircraft that's got carb heat, put the carb heat on. So we're going to clear our left, center, right. We're going to make a turn. This is probably not the best circuit I've done in the world. Got to make sure we go on our base. Normally I'd make a call as well to go onto our base. So there, we're on our base leg there, and I'm going to put some more flaps out. And then we're going to make our turn, and I'm going to make sure I'm not stalling, so it's a bit hard trying to talk at the same time of doing this. But see how I could basically pretty much turn on to final, no worries, or half a decent one anyway. There we go. We want to make sure that our speed's okay and we're lined up, and then we're going to use our rudder pedals. So pretty much using and flying as I would fly in circuits in real life. So you can use this as a tool in many ways to practice your skills on real life flying, and I think that VR gives you the best of the best when it comes to that. Now in the past there's been, technology's obviously grown with VR, and the resolution's getting better and better as we go. I can pretty much read everything on the cockpit here and all the fine print. And I can read everything, which is really great. The only disappointing thing with Microsoft Flight Simulator is you don't have the hand controllers. Not that I would use them, because I have a yoke. I'm using the Virtual Fly yoke, the yoke and rudder pedals and also throttles. Go a bit quicker. I'm not sure what the approach speed is in a Cessna. We'll get our landing here. Pushing down, so I'm aiming for the numbers here. And as I aim for the numbers, you get that depth of perception. So I know I've made the runway, and now I'm looking towards the end of the runway and pulling back on the yoke as the aircraft sinks. There we go. We flared pretty far there. So I'm going to trim. Oh, it's because the flaps are all the way down. And put the flaps up. So I'm a little bit slower. I would do that in real life a lot quicker. And made sure we had plenty of more of the runway. But you know, as you get used to it, you'll get better. Sort of left that to the last minute. But it gives you the experience. Like I land in the sim a lot easier and a lot better using VR, because you have that depth of perception. But like I was saying before, Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't have built-in to use the hand controllers. I never used the hand controllers in previous sims anyway for VR. There's 900, so we would put flaps up if if we needed to. And we're going to wait till we get to 1100, which will be 500 feet elevation above the runway, and we'll make our turn. So we're going to clear to the left, center, right, looking for no aircraft, and we're going to make our turn. Make sure we're still climbing. And hopefully we'll do a better... Oh, I forgot to put the carb heat off too as well. There we go, and we heard the engine pick up then. Keep raising the nose. Get to W there. So that's why you would use VR as a tool. I can see I'm 90 degrees from the runway. And we're climbing. And we're going to push the nose down. Reduce the throttle. Clear the left, center, right. And make our turn. And I can see all the instruments. I'm going to make sure I keep this turn level and not lose any height this time around. So that's why you would spend your money on VR. It's just for the immersion and the experience, and you can definitely use it as a tool when it comes to doing flying circuits or procedures or doing navs. You can basically do it all. Now, I've been using VR on multiple different sims with multiple VRs. I started off my VR career with P3D with an Oculus Rift, then moved to X-Plane with a Rift S, and then Vulcan with a Rift S, and now with Microsoft Flight Simulator with a Rift S, and also a HP Reverb G2. The experience with Microsoft Flight Simulator, the depth and quality of the sim when it comes to VR is a lot better than all the other sims that I've ever come across. It's a lot smoother for sure, and just the depth and what you see, and the sim looks, what it does like on the desktop can look like in VR, which is different, because a lot of the other like X-Plane and things like that, you really need to turn down. Actually, I botched up this circuit, but you guys sort of understand what we're talking about here. This is probably the hardest thing to find, because normally you do that a lot quicker. So if I had some switches, that would make it easier. So we make sure we trim for descending. We're going to go left, center, right, and go onto our base. But Microsoft Flight Simulator, like, I can see quite far in the sim, and the depth of perception and the realism is really, really, really good when you compare it to other sims. The flap there is pretty hard to do. I think it keeps putting the flap all the way down. And we've overshot the runway here. But if you had the flaps bound, it would be a lot easier. I don't really want to do full flaps, but here we go. We'll go for our third touch and go. But the experience, like you can see the shadows, the reflections of the aircraft. I can see the dash quite a lot easier. I can see all the details in the trees. And like I said, I've got this turned down at the moment. So, and that's the difference between all the other simulators that I've used in the past, is the level of detail with Microsoft Flight Simulator is insane. Even with other headsets, I believe that, in my opinion, the G2 is a lot more higher quality than some other headsets. But I hear people are getting some really good success with the Quest, Oculus Quest 2, and the Rift S2 is not too bad as well. Let's see if we can do a better touchdown this time. A little bit of bounce then. I wasn't looking towards the end of the runway. It's good, but we'll put the flaps up. Let's try to get the carb heat in. There we go. We'll trim. pull back for 60. There we go. How cool is that? But the level of detail with Microsoft Flight Simulator in VR is absolutely insane. You can go and fly cross-country and use landmarks and all that sort of stuff in VR. It's really, really, really good for that sort of stuff. So there's 400 feet. I'm going to get 1,000 foot. I'm going to look for that. Clear left, center right. Gonna look for the boat here. Or the ship, I should say. Making sure we're looking for a west there, which we are, so that our beans we're on at 90. We'll make sure that we're still tracking. Clear the left, center, right. Want to make this a bit more of a closer circuit, see if we can get it perfect. As I would do in the real world, because we were flying out too far. There we go, there's north will be parallel to the runway. So here I do bump fish checks and all that sort of stuff like that, but we won't do that. We'll just say that we've done it. And we'll make sure we're flying parallel to the runway. So really see if we can nail this circuit for a full stop landing this time. But so that's sort of what VR is all about in Microsoft, why you would actually choose to VR. I would highly recommend it. Some people ask, well, am I going to get sick? You need to have a decent PC to be able to run it. But within saying that, Microsoft actually really performs well with VR, so it's performance-wise, it's pretty good. So there's a threshold there. But you'd need to make sure you've got a good PC, and if you're starting to get sick, I'd just say push through it, because I think everybody goes through that to start off with. And generally it's only for, you know, your first few goes. So there we go. So we're reducing altitude. We've got slow flight there happening. And I'm basically looking, making sure that's in my 90 degrees, which is there. So we're going to clear left, center, right. Beautiful day over in, I think it's, what is it, Chicago? If I got that right. But over at Mexfield, anyway. So we're on our base for our 90. Just going to do flaps all the way down again. Clear left, clear center. Make sure we turn up. We don't stall. There we go, we lined up better. The only issue there is dropping the flaps all the way down. I don't want them all the way down. We're a little bit higher, but that's because we kept it a closer, tighter circuit. But you just really get that good depth of perception, and when I'm flying I get the same feeling as I'm using the pitch for speed and my throttle for my height, so, or my altitude. There we go, we've got the pappies turn white and red. That's good. Speeds just above 60, should be at about 60, 65 for approach, and a 152 as far as I led to believe. But this is sort of one of my first experiences with the G2 recording it, so hopefully it's turned out okay. If you like this sort of stuff, please let us know. We can do more of it. Maybe some more procedural flying. Aiming for 36. We're definitely going to make the runway there, so we're pulling back on the throttle. Going to flare, and then we're looking up for the end of the runway. There we go, we bounced it. We didn't do that very successful either. Anyway, so we're going to come to a stop. Actually going to cheat here. Use some parking brakes as we pull off to the side of the runway. Which we did that super quick. Go past the holding short port line. There we go. And looks at that, we've got actually someone sitting over there in real life. I don't know who it is because I don't have the tags on there. Watching me as I'm doing some circuits in VR in actually flying the Jabiru from Iris Simulations, which is pretty cool. So if you have any questions on VR, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you want to see more videos in VR, like I said, they're really hard to film, but you know, we can always improve. I'll leave a description in a link below. If you like this airport, you can check it out. But in my opinion, VR is definitely worth the investment. If you want the ultimate setup when it comes to flight simming, it is for VR. It is a Microsoft Flight Simulator. It is VR and having a good headset. You can definitely use it as a tool for practicing, so that's really cool. And just the experience, and if I compare it to other sims, I would have to say Microsoft Flight Simulator is the top of the list for VR, followed by X-Plane, and then followed by Prepared. But a great experience nevertheless. But the level of detail of quality on Microsoft Flight Simulator is absolutely insane. So actually we've still got our landing lights on, so we're going to put taxi lights on and turn the landing lights off. And we're going to park over here next to a barren. Make sure we don't hit anything. There we go. We'll level out the wings. Hopefully hit the microphone there. That'll do. There we go. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next video.